and gentlemen, have your attention please, and pass you over to the father of the bride.
A round of applause before I start. That's great. Thank you very much. Just a minute. I thought the bin men were coming back for the recycling. Sorry, it's all right. Good afternoon, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Simon, father of the bride, and I get the honour of making the first speech here. Linda and I, along with Tracy and Gary, welcome you all to this superb location to celebrate Clare and Dan's wedding. It's great to see so many from both sides of the family and friends of Clare and Dan. Now, in preparing for this speech, I went online to search for some tips. And one of those was to keep it around 7 minutes, because on average nowadays the attention span of people is around about 7 minutes. Straight away I can see some people bringing that average down, so be alert. I may pick on anyone I see dozing off. Maybe Grace. She's been on nights for 2 nights, so I'll keep an eye on you.
4 nights.
Well, today I'm the proudest dad in the world. Accompanied Clare and seen her get married to Dan. I think everyone will agree she looks absolutely stunning. And Dan doesn't look too bad either. You know, it's been quite emotional, and I'm not embarrassed to say, a bit like the wedding cake, I've been in tears. The jokes aren't getting any better, so enjoy them. So what about Clare? I'm sure she's been wondering, probably dreading, about what I was going to say. Well, she needn't worry, because she's got as many embarrassing stories about me as I have of her, so I decided not to tell any. Then I thought, that's a bit unfair on Dan. He really shouldn't have an idea of what he's let himself in for, even though it's too late now. So I've got many stories to choose from, but I thought to keep it to that 7-minute time span, should it be why we called her CC in the past? Or should it be about her obsession with the film Braveheart and the fact that she can quote all the dialogue of the whole film? Maybe her addiction to mooning. Or, I hope she's stopped that one now. Or how she used to get tied up as a kid. But I decided on none of them, because they weren't going to be of much help to Dan about her strange behaviour. I think he probably knows that already. So I thought it'd be better to warning about her inability to find white goods. And by that I mean washing machines, cookers, fridges, that sort of thing. This story is about a tumble dryer. I think she was probably about 10 at the time, and she was asked to go and get the washing out the tumble dryer, which was in the garage. Anyway, after a bit of moaning and whining and going to the toilet, which Clare does a lot when there are jobs to be done, she went off to the garage with the washing basket in hand. Yeah, well, about 15 minutes later, I said to Linda, where is Clare? She's not still in the toilet, surely. She said, no, she's in the garage getting the washing out of tumble dryer. I said, well, she's been gone quite a while. So I went out into the garage, and Clare was just sitting on the side looking quite sad and worried. I said, all concerned, what's wrong? Are you okay? And she goes, I can't find the tumble dryer. I said, but it's right there, you're sitting next to it. You know, I have to admit, I was probably a stereotypical father, and no boy was ever going to be good enough for Clare, so she was a little bit secretive about boyfriends. But when Dan came along, that all changed. And Linda and I knew when he had the power to prise her away from Rington, where she lived. And Rington was a sort of village where once you moved in, you didn't move out. Lovely place. But once he prized her away from there, we knew it was serious. As we got to know Dan better and he became more integrated, it was obvious he was a really nice guy. But I had to get him to extend his sporting activities to include running. So I persuaded him to join Marlborough Running Club. And we were coming home one evening from a Wednesday night training session, I was driving, he said to me, I've got a question to ask you. Now, I thought it was going to be something serious, like what should be my next half marathon, when should I step up to the marathon, that sort of thing. But no, it was to ask my permission to ask Clare to marry him. Well, of course, I nearly did an emergency stop to cross-examine him about his potential and his ability to keep Clare in the lifestyle she was accustomed. But I thought that would be a bit cruel. He was obviously very nervous, so I managed to refrain, and I was really quite honoured that he'd asked me. But I did want to know if he had any special talents. And it appears he does. He has this talent to independently move his eyebrows.
Do I?
I think you should show this one, Dan. Come on. Oh, he was lying to me. God damn. He said he had this talent. No, he's all shy. All right. Doesn't want to do it. Of course, there are many things about Dan that make Linda and I very happy that Clare have chosen him. I mean, we reckon that if we could design a husband for Clare, it would be just like Dan. And of course, in that design, his half marathon time would be just a tad longer than mine. I'm just hoping that the distraction of marriage will keep it that way, just for a little bit longer. But there is one thing Clare has to be very careful about Dan. He can be a little bit secretive and a bit sneaky. For example, when he went to buy the engagement ring, he actually booked a day's holiday from work, didn't tell anybody, got up, got dressed as if he was going to work. Clare made his sandwiches, off to work he went. He actually went to Bristol to a jeweller's to buy the ring. He ate his sandwiches, came home, as if nothing had ever happened and no one was the wiser.
No.
Also, he has blotted his copybook recently as well. I'm probably going to break tradition here and tell you something that went on the Stag Hen weekend. It probably should stay on the Stag Hen, but anyway, I'm going to tell you. So Dan was challenged to find Clare amongst all the females by identifying her by a physical attribute. Don't worry, it was just feeling her hands. And all the females were lined up with their hands lined up. Dan was blindfolded and he went down the line feeling their hands. Of course, as he went down the line, we moved Clare around a little bit and a few extra hands went in, male ones. It wasn't until he got to Linda and he's feeling her hand, he goes, "This is a man's hand." I mean, what a way to upset your future mother-in-law like that, eh? I don't know. Anyway, despite that, Linda and I really pleased to welcome Dan into our side of the family. I know Tracy and Gary done exactly the same for Clare. So I think I may have done me 7 minutes by now, so hopefully everyone's still with me. 6:30? Oh, sorry. There wasn't enough laughs, okay. So could I please ask you to be upstanding, raise your glasses to the happy couple, wish them enjoyment for today, the fulfilment of all their hopes and dreams for the future, the bride and groom, Clare and Dan, the new Mr. and Mrs. Dinsey.
Cheers. Well done.
Thank you very much. I haven't finished yet. Just to finish off, I really wanted to give some worldly advice to Clare and Dan for their future life. Never go to bed on an argument. I think everybody knows that one. So I wanted something a bit more deep and meaningful. So I've come up with two, which I think will stand them in very good stead for the future. Both are about things before you go to bed. The first one is, always make sure there's no rebel alarm clocks in your bedroom. And more importantly, before you go to bed each night, always check your caravan roof for bread. Thank you very much.
Right. Bring everyone to my part. Thanks, Simon, for that excellent speech. That really was good. I've left this bit blank, to fill in the void, but it really was excellent, so thank you. And good advice as well. You could have told us that before the stag.
I should have told you before the stag, yes, it would have been better, I agree.
Well, firstly, I'd like to thank everyone on behalf of my wife and I, Claire. We practiced that bit as well, for everyone for being here with us, especially those who have travelled far. We really do appreciate it, and it means a lot to us that you're here today, and I hope you've enjoyed the day so far. It's a wonder that I made it here, actually, as according to Beth, who's sat over there.
She's standing over there.
Here she is, give us a wave. I've got a bit of a reputation for being elsewhere. A couple of months ago, Beth drew this lovely picture of our wedding day, and as you can see, we've got all the people eating on the tables, chandeliers hanging above, Clare in her lovely purple dress, and when asked where I was, Beth said to turn the paper over, where I could be found sitting on the toilet next to the urinals there. So well done, Beth, thanks for the picture. And if anyone's wondering where I am later, just check over there. Okay. Before I continue, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the staff here at the barn, particularly Ed, Laura and Caroline for making the day run smoothly. We've really enjoyed it and it's a perfect venue for us, isn't it?
Yeah.
So thank you very much. We'd also like to say a huge thank you to our photographers Lauren and Alex. Where's Alex? She is. I know a lot of hard work goes into it, so thank you. Also to my best man and my cousin James for sorting some video equipment and John filming this right now. So, hi. It's great that we'll be able to remember the day, with footage. So we really appreciate that. When I asked John for advice on writing a groom speech, he said it's just a load of saying thank yous, and he wasn't wrong. But it really is important to us that we do thank everyone, as we really wouldn't have been able to do it without the help of our friends and family. So I'm afraid you're just going to have to sit through it. I'd like to call on some help from my wife at this point to present some gifts.
Me? Let me just get up.
We'd like to say thank you to our good friends Charlie and Peck for doing readings this morning at our ceremony. I think you'll all agree they did a great job and really made it special for us. So if you two would like to come up and declare.
Thank you. Charlie. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. We'd also like to thank all of our friends and family who helped us organise our stag and hen weekend, especially Zoe, Charlotte and John. You all really went above and beyond to ensure that everyone had a great weekend and night out, so thank you. And we'd also like to thank all of the other friends and family who arranged and attended the several stag and hen do's we had. I think Clare ended up going on 5, which I need to look in the Guinness Book of Records because that could be a contender. That brings us on to the bridesmaids, who I'm sure you agree all looked really lovely today. We'd like to say thanks for all your help making our day special and for looking after Clare today. Chloe and Jada, you did an excellent job this morning. Where's Jada?
She's over there.
Over there. And you look lovely in your dresses. Would you like to come up and get your presents from Clare? Chloe? And Charlotte and Kate, thanks for all your hard work, doing all your bridesmaid duties and again looking after Clare. You both look amazing too. If you could come up, please, Kate and Charlotte. Thank you.
Charlotte. Thank you. Try and give you a present. Thanks, mate.
Thank you.
Some sort of spaces, aren't we?
Yeah.
That's fine. That brings me on to my best man. I don't know if I should wait until after his speech really before I praise him and give him the gifts. But John, I'd just like to say a big thank you from both of us for being a brilliant best man and best friend over the years. You've helped us loads with planning the stag and all the preparations for today. And I'm really glad that you and Zoe have been here to help us, even for things like stuffing confetti into bags. A really girly job that I know you enjoyed immensely. Here's a little something from us to say thanks. And Zoe, if you come up too, please, we've got something for you.
Thank you very much.
For anyone who's planned a wedding before, I'm sure you know how stressful it really is. But we've really been lucky enough to have such great help. It's all the small details that make the difference, really. For example, as our usher Gary pointed out, you can't have the music going out of sync with the sound levels and someone passing wind while sipping their champagne. So, yeah, Gary, we'd like to say a huge thank you to you for all of your help, and you really did a great job this morning getting everyone organised, everyone in the right place. It was all perfectly on time, so well done, and thanks for the music. We'd like to say thank you to our grandparents. Firstly, my Nan Mavis. Thank you so much for your contributions to our day. Claire's got a little present for you, which she'll bring out to you, don't worry. You're right, you don't need to go? Yeah. Thank you. for you to get back.
Faster.
Next, we'd like to thank Claire's Nana Joan and Keith for buying our wedding cake. We're really grateful, and we're really looking forward to eating it too later. So, thank you very much. Thank you. Right.
You should start the next bit.
Yeah. That brings us on to my nan and grandpa. Thank you for your contributions to our day, and especially for all my nan's hard work sewing Claire's dress and making sure it fits perfectly, and it looks amazing, and we're really happy with it. So thank you very much. And also, also for my grandpa for arranging the cars today. Thank you very much. Oh yeah. It's also my nan's birthday today, so I'd like to wish her a happy birthday.
And give her the buzz.
Happy birthday. We'd also like to thank Claire's granddad and Jenny for all their contributions and all their help they've given us. You've really made it be a special day for us, so thank you very much. And last but no means least, Claire's grandparents, Joy and Arnold. Thank you so much for all of your support and help for our special day. Right, you can have a rest now. Well done.
Does everyone do more to go on?
We're after a minute. And now I'd like to say just a few words about our parents. We really are both very lucky to have such supportive and caring parents. I don't get to say it all the time, but I'd like to take this opportunity to say to my mum and dad a huge thanks for everything they've done for me. Where am I? You really have been the best ever, and I feel very lucky to be where I am today. I know Claire feels the same. I'd also like to say how grateful I am to Linda and Simon on behalf of Claire and I for all of their support. I've always felt welcome, treated like one of the family, even after the initiation of running a few half marathons, of course. But seriously, a huge thanks to both of our parents for everything you've done for us, and all the help and support we've had to make today possible. We really do appreciate it, and have a little something for you both to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before I pass you on to my best man, John, I'd like to thank Claire. Claire, you're absolutely stunning, and I'm so happy to be standing here today as your husband. Thanks for everything you've done for me, and for making me so happy and always being there to look after me. I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with you. If you could all raise your glasses, please, I'd like to raise a toast to everyone that's made this day possible, and to my beautiful wife, Claire.
To Claire.
To Claire.
Okay.
Now, I know John is itching to get on with his speech. But before he starts, there's something you should know about John. Not everyone knows this, but he's actually a compulsive liar. It's quite sad, really, and you can't help it, but just bear that in mind that a lot of what he says won't be true. So if everyone just humour him a bit, make him feel happy, then that'd be great. Thanks very much, everyone. Over to you, John.
Thanks for that. My name's John, and I'm the best man, as he just said, which confuses me a bit, because if I'm the best man, why is Claire marrying him? And today I've got a bit of a love poem to read for Dan and Claire, but mainly Dan. Nowadays, although they're cheesy, it's so easy to copy and paste a speech from the internet with the names replaced. You just go to Google and search best man speech, then plagiarise a little from each. But I'll write a poem instead. That'll make me look smart. I'll write something in rhyme from the bottom of my heart, so that every word that will be heard will be sincere. Congratulations, insert name here. Oh, I mean, Dan and Claire. At our wedding, we chose Dan to be our best man, and it's nice to be asked to return the favour. I promise I'll be on my best behaviour. I bet that you're worried about what's coming up next, but don't worry, I won't mention any ex. 8 years ago, a long time I know, when you met me in Greg Wendell's class, first day of uni, you had an admirer a bit before Claire. How could I not fall for that curly brown hair? We quickly became really good friends, you, me and Zoe drinking champagne, eating M&Ms, whilst playing Guitar Hero on the Wii or watching Jermaine and Brett on TV. And if you're ever in Dan's company for as much as an evening, he'll give a gift that nobody is happy receiving. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be crass, but let's just say he has a problem holding in gas. When I think of Dan, a few words come to mind. Trustworthy, loyal, funny and kind, even though I'm always trying to wind him up and annoy, which I actually think he secretly enjoys. He's always coming up with awful puns, which could easily get him a job working at the Sun. He's had some terrible ones over the years. Even the wedding cake was in tears. Same joke. There may be something that not everyone here knows. A secret pleasure that in Dan's leisure, he likes to dress up in women's clothes. I'm not saying it's like a weekly habit, but whenever the chance arises, he tends to grab it. It really isn't the norm, dressing up in Zoe's nurse's uniform, or showing a bit too much skin dressed as Jasmine from Aladdin. A few years ago, we started What Is Echo? A band with some mates from college. We used to meet up in Green's garage. One time, we were heading home from band practice in Dan's car, and we didn't get that far, because a great example of Dan's stupidity, if we needed any proof, was that he'd driven off with his MacBook still on his roof. There are many things that make Dan great, the perfect mate, but if I had to pick one, I'd say it's his impression of a dog falling out of a car on the motorway. Go on, Dan.
Come on, do it now.
But you didn't think you'd be doing that today, did you? We dressed Dan up for his night as stag in shorts and shirt with a sweatband and bright orange bum bag. To represent Dan's love of running, we must have all looked pretty stunning as we were all dressed up as well. Most of us not runners, you could probably tell. Looking more like a school sports day who'd lost their way. With his hobby, I was always suspicious of nothing malicious, just something more, as he goes running with his father-in-law. Surely a great way to get on his good side before plucking the question to his future bride. So after some drinking games with the Harry Potter hens, we head out for a good night with friends. We make our way into Cardiff city centre to make it a night that we'll all remember. But before we hit St Mary Street, we're quite hungry, so look for a bite to eat. We spot a lovely looking restaurant just about to close. Lovely staff and decor, a fine South African place called Nando's. So picture this sight for one crazy stag night. Crammed round a table are 9 blokes sipping refillable cokes, looking like tits in our PE kits, chatting about things until the food comes, but not about girls or beer, but the new Morrisons. Just when we think it couldn't possibly get worse, the night seems cursed. It was the pre-outing drinks, I think, as Craig runs to the toilet and is sick in the sink. Which reminds me of our graduation drinks back at uni. Some red wine offered for our degree. It tasted awful, but you can't complain when it's free. Isaac Newton once said, "What goes up must come down." But after too many glasses of that red, we had it the other way around. As it was heading back up with no warning at all, I was sick in the cubicle while Dan was in the urinal. Early this morning, while still yawning, there were hours of preparation, hairspray, lipstick and foundation, and I hope you'll excuse this speech cliche, but I think you all agree that Dan looks great today. Joking aside, look at his bride. Claire, you look amazing, I must confess, and perfect in your wedding dress. Since you've been together and I've got to know you, you've become a great friend too. So at the risk of sounding sappy, thank you for making Dan so happy. It's been a pleasure to share and help prepare, filling confetti, tying ribbons, cutting strings, and looking after your wedding rings. for the biggest day of your life, the day you became husband and wife. But as some here may know, he isn't your only love. I think you know who I'm talking of. There's only one man you find hotter, but unfortunately he's as fictional as Harry Potter. The sight of him makes you feel quite queasy. Where did it go wrong? I thought your plan was to marry Ron Weasley. I love your uncontrollable laughter when everyone else has stopped and you're still giggling long after. And I hope you can make me a promise, please, that now you're married, Dan won't get all of your chocolate brownies. As I hope you know that today, when you said I do, you've now agreed to put up with me too. I'm really surprised this day even came. It must be true love, I must admit. Claire, how did you even get him to part with the deposit? Because you know Dan can be funny when it comes to money. I'm not saying he's a cheapskate, he never pays up late, but let's just say he holds his purse strings quite tight, making sure each purchase is just right. With the wedding he even tried his best, saying that he'll make Claire's wedding dress. Though I think he had to put his original plan on ice when his old work Asda weren't interested in a wedding sponsored by Smart Price. Let's have an example of this, shall we? Earlier this year when Claire's car went in for an MOT, sadly it was announced that the car had died, and between them they had to decide whether to get another car so they could have one each, a really hard decision together they had to reach. It had to be a compromise that they'd both like, and to cut a long story short, Claire now gets to work on a bike. Although with one thing there was no expense spared, and it took hours of help from Zoe to get prepared. I think he can pride himself with his cracking costume of Alf. There must have been something about those yellow tights, as Claire fell for him that very night. Since then, I'm sure I'll not be alone in seeing it's been great to see how their relationship has grown. They're obviously very good friends, and on each other they can always depend. But if things ever do go awry, although I can't see why, as you know, we got married only 3 years ago, so if you ever want any marriage advice, don't ever think twice to pick up the phone or knock on the door. They won't mind, that's what mum and dads are for. A big thank you to everyone who's here today, even if you did just come for the free buffet. Without all their friends and family here to celebrate, who would be here to see Dan marry his soulmate? I hope you enjoy the rest of your life, not just as a great couple, but as husband and wife. So ladies and gentlemen, raise your glasses, stand and join me. Oh wait. A toast to the bride and groom, to Mr. and Mrs. Dinsey.
Mr. and Mrs. Dinsey.
And back to Simon.
Oh, back to me.
Well done.